Hello, this is Reverend Don Lewis coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically from beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Corellian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. And as you can see, we're doing something a little different today. We're not in our normal room, that is so that I can talk to you about my altar that I've been setting up and share with you some of the pieces on it. It was suggested to me that people would find that interesting, and I would find it interesting, so I thought I would do it. As you know, if you want to interact with me, you can type your comments or your questions into whatever platform you're watching, and they will show up here in my chat room. And I want to say hello to Antonio in the chat room. I don't completely guarantee that I can see all of the comments because I'm a little farther away from the computer than usual, but I'm going to do my best. We are in. Hello to Mary in the chat room. Good to see you, Mary. So yes, I can see them. Very good. We are obviously not in my office. We are in what's going to be the temple room here in my house in Danville. And, it's taken me a while to start setting things up. And hello to Renee in the chat room. And hello to Mary Hawk in the chat room. But these are pieces I've had, in some cases, for very many years. And what I'm going to do today is I'm going to share them with you, show them to you. Some a little more relevant than others, but hello to Lynn in the chat room. Hello to Jan in the chat room. And I've been in the process of setting this up for a little while now, but we finally got it to the point that it's publicly presentable. Privately, of course, is a whole other matter. And so what I thought I would do is I would just kind of start at one end and go to the other. And share with you some of the different pieces. So I don't know if you can entirely see her from a distance. This is one of my favorite goddess statues, I guess I would say, although that's not what she was meant to be. She's meant to be a planter. You can see she's hollow, but she often has held center place on my altars over the years. With various things inside her, often with flowers. But I love the simplicity of the design. And so I very often use this in recent years. I haven't had it all that long. I've had it maybe 5, 6, I think. But I quite like it. And she's back here. She's not at the center of the altar at this time, but she's on it. With her is this crystal ball. And if you've ever seen the photo of me holding out the crystal ball from Salem, this is that crystal ball going all the way back to Holy City Temple. I think all the way back to the beginning of Holy City Temple. And I may have had it even a little before that, but certainly back to Holy City Temple. And that is the better part of 30 years. It used to sit on a black herbal pillow on the altar. And I still have that pillow somewhere, I believe. But some years ago, I became aware of these guys, which is to say, candle holders made from crystal points. And I thought at the time, wouldn't that be a great holder for a crystal ball? And so I got one probably 20 years ago. And ever since then, I've tended to keep them together like this. Most of the things on this particular altar are things that are like that. They're things I've had maybe for a few years, maybe for a lot of years, but they're things that I've used a lot and consider to be very important. I also have this, which, as you can see, is an artificial crystal ball, but I've always quite enjoyed the shape of it. And it's been on my altar usually as an energetic focal point. Right now, again, it's not in a grid at this moment, but it could very easily be moved into one in the near future. These are candles, which are just candles. There's nothing really to say about them except that they're here for a use that's coming. This is my magic wand. And let me hold it close so that you can see it. And as you can see, one side is a clear crystal point. The other side is fluorite, primarily purple with a little bit of green in it. And they're bridged by, I don't exactly know for certain what kind of wood it is because it came from Africa. I got this in 2013 when I was in Cape Town. It's a very light wood, and it's joined by clay to hold the terminals. But I always thought that this was such a beautiful, simple design. And I bought it and brought it back for that reason. I love the simplicity. I love the artistic value of this piece. But it's not alone on the altar because right next to it is this wand. And I actually have quite a large collection of wands even now. But I did sell quite a few of them earlier in the year. This one I would never sell. This was a posthumous gift from my friend Pete Pathfinder Davis of the ATC. At the time of his death, he had 13 matching wands made, which were distributed. Well, before his death, he had them made. At the time of his death, they were distributed to 13 community leaders that he wanted to have them to maintain a psychic connection and as a sign of regard. And I've always felt very privileged to have received this. So it is right here on my altar also. Now, here in the center, I'm not going to pick up the whole thing. In fact, I realize you can't even see it, but there is a block of stone, not very thick, serpentine, I believe. And on that is a protection altar. I guess I will pick the whole thing up and show you. And this is the altar. I'm hesitant to attempt to turn it too much because nothing is fixed in place. But this is a protection altar that I have had, since around 2005, perhaps, maybe a little longer. And as you can see, it features 4 astral spiders. Originally, these were much larger figures of spiders and much more realistic. These are much more stylized. I suppose I could show you one of them a little more closely. They're in symbolic colors. And this is an altar I regularly work with for protection at the center. There is a crystal, which, as you can see, it points upwards and disseminates energy. This altar does take different shapes at different times. That crystal is not always the thing at the center. This one that I was showing you a little earlier is sometimes at the center of that altar. So there are a variety of different things that I have used in how I've set this up. Sometimes there have been quite elaborate crystal settings. And in front of the altar, we have this. And I don't know if there's any way to show you what that is, but I think that's as close as I'm going to. And I regard this as one of my most magical artifacts, and it is a probability turner. I suppose what I really mean to say is a probability tuner. Same idea. And you can see when you look at it, you basically see a galaxy, which by all appearances is far too deep and detailed to be in this shape. If you look at it, it looks like it goes many inches farther than the ball itself. And it's used for meditation in creating physical reality. Over here we have my athame. And I've shown this on other occasions. I will open it for you. My son and I have had a bit of a discussion about whether or not I should clean this. He would like to see it cleaned because he is a knife collector and he knows this is a very valuable knife. But there's also a feeling that's been expressed to me from some of my other advisors that taking the patina off of it after having used it for 40 years as an athame isn't necessarily the best idea either. So right now it's staying as it is. My son was able to identify what it is. This was a gift to me from my uncle Edward. It was an initiation gift for my first degree initiation. So we're talking 1976. And it is a collector's knife from the Olympics in Finland. And my uncle Edward was Finnish. It's very beautiful. I don't really imagine that you can see all the workmanship in it. And it those people who feel an athame must be black and use the term in that very specific way would probably not want to consider this an athame. I don't care. It's been my athame all this time. The choice of this knife probably has to do with some of his metaphysical background, which was very different from my mother's family. Next to that, we have the magical artifact of fire, which is just a simple lighter. And then over here, and hello to Magical Mermaid in the chat room. And I'm still having a little difficulty with the chat room. Over here, we have the lustration bowl, which is for lustral water. And it's here waiting for the spring lustration and the investiture of the new first priesthood. This particular one was a gift from Laurie Denman to replace one that was a gift from Lady Bitterwind that was broken. So you can see it's carnival glass, which is a very beautiful kind of glass that dates its origin, I believe, to the 1930s, or certainly its great popularity. Here we have a burning dish, which is used for just that purpose, and you can see it has been. It began its life, I'm sure, as a planter. But if you're looking for a good burning dish, planters, metal planters like this in brass are a very good choice. Or you can also find cast iron cauldrons in small sizes, particularly in Hispanic grocery stores, because they're still used more commonly in Hispanic cooking, which make wonderful burning dishes. And of course, there are many other choices. We have a lovely little bottle here, not yet put into use. And then we have the altar itself. But I don't know. Obviously, I'm not going to try to move this altar, but if you can see, it's completely covered in carving. It is a Hindu altar dedicated to Ganesha, who's up here, who's also, I regard as one of my patrons. This was a gift to me on the occasion of my 40th Jubilee by the membership of Chosen Path Temple. It is guarded here by two Egyptian figures. I will hold one of them up so you can see. And these were gifts to me from Cosmo Rubiconis. And then if we open the altar, you can get some idea of what it looks like inside. Now, if you were looking straight ahead, you'd come away with more of an idea. So what's inside? Well, candles. There are a couple of pieces in here that come from people who've been very important in my life. On this side, and in this lovely little abalone shell bowl is some hair from Lady Crystal that was originally part of the protection altar because it was for her as well as for me. These bowls, I love these bowls. I have actually a full altar set made in this way. I got those when I was living in Palm Beach County, Florida, with Lady Janice. On the other side, in another one of those bowls, is this guy. And this was the last gift to me from Lady Bitterwind. And as you can see, he's actually a bottle in the form of a monkey enjoying his life. In the center is this, which is my remote crystal access point, which is hooked to all of my crystal web access points. And back in Florida, when you would see me take part in the crystal web ritual on the 11th, I would often point out that my altar was diagonal from where I was standing. So if you saw me going in that direction, that's why. And this is the crystal access point that is in, well, the same altar now. And then here in front of it is a scarab. And the scarab represents transformation, control of form, ability to shape things through the astral. So I think that it's quite appropriate in the altar. And then here, I don't know if you can see what I've just done, but there's a special little tray for offerings that pulls out over the protection altar in front and then can be put back afterwards. And so let me just take a quick look at, hello to Amethyst in the chat room. I see people are making very nice comments. I appreciate that. So this is my personal altar. It is something that will be frequently changing. And many other pieces that are not necessarily here on top will be in the drawers because this is, well, you can't see it all. This is sitting on my mother's writing desk. Probably the last piece of ancestral furniture I still own, and one of the nicer ones. So my son, as you may know, gave me a beautiful new writing desk for myself, but this now becomes an altar table. And hello to Joanna in the chat room. And Joanna says, most beautiful and special. Thank you for sharing with us. And you know, that pretty much concludes the altar tour, but there are still some things I can say about a personal altar. And the first thing is they're very personal. What different people like to do with their altars is very personal. I do not generally like my altars to stay the same. They may stay the same for a few months. Usually, historically, I would change them out at the savants. And some things, you know, this altar, the silver piece is never going to change. But some other things on it may. And that's because I think of the altar as a place of living energy. Of course, it's going to change, just like everything else. But I know other people who like for their altars to always be exactly the same, because that gives them a sense of security. I do not look at it that way, but there's nothing wrong with looking at it that way. It's just a difference. For me, if you look back through my older videos where different altars were visible in the background, you'll see they were constantly changing. And if you go back to something like the Healing Shrine 20 years ago, and we had that huge altar at that point. But you know, every few weeks, what was on it would change. And to me, that's what you do with an altar. You don't leave it constantly the same. And Jan says, beautiful altar. Thank you for sharing. And Amethyst says, that's a nice altar. And Magical Mermaid says, lovely, much more opulent than mine for sure. Well, you know, it is. It was very nice of the people at Chosen Path to present me with this. It's very, very precious to me. And it is a beautiful work of art. And, you know, it is a fairly typical Hindu altar, although they're certainly not all the same. You'll also see this sort of altar done entirely in wood, for example. This one, I'm not 100% certain at this exact moment if it came from Patel's in Jacksonville, but they carried this sort of altar. I think it may have, or it certainly was inspired by what they carried. And, you know, they had all kinds of beautiful altar equipment in the grocery store because they're everyday pieces of life. They had altars like this. They had small table altars for offerings. You know, I think that Western paganism would do well to emulate more of that example. I will say, although looking at this particular layout might not exactly seem like it, I'm not a great believer in heavily crowded altars. I think that, and that's why I say I like it to change. If I put everything I had for an altar on this table, it wouldn't be able to stand, even now, after I've greatly lightened my load in life. But by keeping some of the things in the drawers, they can be changed out periodically. And this allows the constant change of the altar itself. And allows it not to be overly complex at any one given time. You know, one of the things I learned years ago working in the psychic shops as a reader was that when the stores did not get changed around, or the energy would become static, it's important to frequently clean and change. And I think that's true for an altar, to have it always I mean, if you want to have it without change, I don't see anything wrong with that, as I was saying, but you still need to frequently move things around and cleanse them to keep that energy in good shape, like anything else. And so let me see where we're at for time. Oh, we're at the end of our half hour. But I hope that you enjoyed that. Tomorrow we're going back to our talk about death and spirits. Tomorrow we're going to start talking a little bit about funerals, for reasons I'll explain tomorrow. But today I wanted to share this with you, to share these items with you that, as you see, many of them have particular importance to me because of who they came from. And I thank you for being here. I love spending this time with you. I love all of you. And let us close with our prayer as we normally do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives. And we know you are always there for us, even if sometimes we forget. As we sit at our altars, let us remember that you too are on the other side of that altar, and you are always there. Help us not to forget that, and to follow where you lead. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you with great love and with respect, knowing you are always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always also.